Hi, I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times. Back on Monday, January 4th, after a long holiday break. The Arkansas Times, believe it or not, is still on something of a holiday schedule with a special edition this week, but I'll plunge ahead. Sunday at 2:30 p.m. at the First United Methodist Church in Little Rock, there'll be a memorial service for Dale Bumpers, the former U.S. Senator and former governor, died Friday at the age of 90. He'd been in failing health. There's some marvelous stuff on the Arkansas blog by Ernest Dumas, who covered Bumpers for 40 years, about his career in politics, and also some stories that Bumpers told about his early days for an oral history project at the University of Arkansas. Go to arkansasblog.com and look up Ernie's work. It's fascinating stuff about a giant on the Arkansas scene, the likes of which we may never see again. If we do, we'll be lucky. He was a great one. Floodwaters continue to rage high in Arkansas, perhaps off their peak. They've reached a level something like a 20-year high. They've covered some roadways in Little Rock. The damage is great. It was interesting last week that Senator Jason Rapert, a Republican from Conway, is calling for state help for people who've been flooded in his neighborhood. Levees haven't worked for them, but they're not state or federal responsibilities. But as most Republican small government types do, when problems come, he turns to government for help. And of course, if it only do so for all those in need, perhaps it would make some degree of fairness sense anyway. MetroPlan has issued its report on the economic outlook for Central Arkansas in 2016. It's upbeat. Employment is up, economic activity is up, the housing market is stable. They think the world looks good, although there is some cautionary note, I think, in the talk of the future job market of Arkansas and the United States turning away from people to machines. Of course, it'll take people to maintain those machines. Sometime this week, or perhaps early next week, there's going to be a hearing in federal court on more evidence on a lawsuit that attempts to prevent the enforcement of a state law that essentially prohibits distribution of abortion pills in Planned Parenthood clinics in Arkansas. This is the most prevalent means of providing abortions in early terms now. They passed a law in 2015 that's aimed at shutting down those clinics. They claim it's in the interest of safety in women. In fact, it's not. It's merely a naked attempt to stop the providing of abortion pills in those clinics. A federal judge last week temporarily stopped that law from taking effect. She's going to take more evidence. News today of some small change on death row in Arkansas. They're going to no longer have solid doors on death row cells. They'll have bars. Inmates on death row will be able to talk with each other. It's a very small glimmer of perhaps humanity on a place that doesn't have much humane treatment. And of course, there are those who don't favor any humane treatment for people on death row. The Little Rock Port Authority says it's continuing to get resistance to a memorandum of understanding that would be signed with the Quapaw tribe about land near the port that tribe acquired now almost 3 years ago for unspecified reason. And from unspecified sources, the Port Authority says it's still working through issues on this. There seems to be a desire to put some real limits on how the Indian tribe from Oklahoma can use that land, something that they'd never dream about doing with other private property landowners in this region. I think the concern is the Indians might build a casino. They say they will not. They're ready to sign that memorandum of understanding. The State Ethics Commission sent a letter late last week that assessed a $50 fine against somebody who bought a political ad on a Bentonville School Board candidate's Facebook page, paid for it himself, but failed to make the disclosures about who was paying for the ad. He was clearly working in behalf of the candidate, who, by the way, was one of these Christian conservative candidates. The candidate was held to be not to blame since she didn't buy the ad, didn't pay for the ad, and claims not to have known about who did pay for it. It was only a $50 fine. That's not going to be much deterrence in future activities, I don't think. Today's Huck-Up, Mike Huckabee, his former aide Alice Stewart, who left his campaign several weeks ago. He said she was exhausted. She said she's a marathon runner, by the way. She was by no means exhausted, but declined to say anything bad about Mike Huckabee, whose campaign is disarray. Well, she's now the national spokeswoman for the Ted Cruz campaign, and he's kind of in his ascendancy in a very important race in the Iowa caucuses that's going to be contested February 1st. That's the news so far today. I'm Max Brantley. I hope to be back tomorrow.